Before we start, we will give a definition of cost accounting, which is about carrying out an analysis of the cost of production, distribution, financing, and administration, and then processing it all the information. And with the data in your hand, you can plan and set the goals of the company. If we apply these principles to the airlines, we can say that cost accounting can help us decide what type of company we want to create. That is to say, traditional or low-cost company, for example. Traditional company, we find a network structure, a variety of planes in the fleet. Most of the sales are done through travel agencies, different services on board for free, and in short, higher costs due to the variety of existing products. On the other hand, in a low-cost company, we find a point-to-point structure, little variety of planes in the fleet, which means more productivity. Most of the sales take place using the internet. Onboard services are an additional cost, and finally, costs are lower because both products and processes carried out by these companies.
Okay, so I'm going to start with a brief introduction about the history of Singapore Airlines and Scoot. Singapore Airlines is a flag carrier airline of Singapore with its hub at Singapore Changi Airport. It operates as the national airline of Singapore and a major carrier in the Pacific region with routes to Europe and North America, and is largely known for its unparalleled customer service as well as for its continuing efforts to upgrade its aircraft and technology. Moreover, the airline uses Singapore Girl as its central figure in corporate branding. For more than 20 years, the company was ranked as the world's best airline by Skytrax 4 times and Top Travel and Leisure's best airline rankings. In addition, it has 2 subsidiaries, SailCare, operating regional flights to secondary cities, and Scoot, operating as a low-cost carrier. Singapore Airlines was the launch customer for the Airbus A380, the world's largest passenger aircraft, and ranks amongst the top 15 carriers worldwide in terms of revenue passenger kilometers and is ranked 10th in the world for international passengers carried. To continue, in October 2014, Tiger Airways became a subsidiary of the SIA Group and merged with Scoot, operating under the Scoot brand. It now launches flights on medium and long-haul routes from Singapore, predominantly to Australia, China, and India.
At the corporate level, SIA follows a strategy of diversification since it is made up of 36 direct subsidiaries and associated companies. SIA has great control over the market thanks to the various airlines that make it up. The regional airline Silk Air is responsible for operating in the intermediate segment of the market, Tiger Airways in the lowest, and SIA in the upper segment. To reinforce its international strategy, SIA has joined the Star Alliance, one of the main 3 alliances with airlines. In addition, several divisions of the SIA Group have been investing in China and India through strategic alliances with local organizations. In addition, the use of information technology to reduce costs should be highlighted. SIA has created one of the most advanced websites in the industry that allows customers to buy tickets, view schedules, and bill effectively, avoiding the expenses that agents' commission could entail. Of strategy in the corporate level, SIA has companies like Tiger Airways that provide services at very low cost, allowing the company to follow a strategy of cost leadership. This strategy is characterized by acting in a broad section of the market, a limited section of planes, a low price and a low cost with high quality and essential services. In conclusion, we could say that Singapore Airlines supports a dual strategy of leadership in internal cost and differentiation through the core competency of cost-effective service excellence, followed by a unique and self-reinforcing system of organizational processes and activities.
What key competitive advantage does an airline need to develop to be successful? Well, Scoot Airlines has made a significant investment into a voice of customer platform in order to make CX its key competitive advantage in the low-cost carrier market. Since travelers often hold the perception that low-cost carriers offer minimal service quality and offerings, they've decided to change that mindset and retain their loyal customers by adding value to the customer's journey through delivering high customer satisfaction across all touchpoints. To achieve this, Scoot adopted a platform that helps collect and analyze feedback from customers in different countries. And every customer that flies with the airline is asked via an emailed survey to rate their experience using standardized Net Promoter Score questions, with the intention being to obtain data on which customer touchpoints need improvement as a means to attract customers. In addition, some key competitive advantages an airline needs to ensure success are: 1. Boosting their marketing efforts through effective personalization. Luckily, airlines have access to a lot of detailed information for each individual customer. They know which is an individual's preferred route or how he or she typically behaves when purchasing services. This data can then be used to get a holistic view of each customer and offer more relevant marketing communications and personalized customer experience, in turn boosting customer loyalty and reducing marketing expenses by delivering the right message to the right target at the right time. Another key competitive advantage involves the guaranteeing of air safety and staying ahead of airplane maintenance. Flight cancellations and delays are extremely hurtful in the airlines industry, and they affect both the image and the cost profile of an airline. Since almost 30% of the total delay time is caused by unplanned maintenance, some carriers have started installing sensors on their fleet to collect data about the technical condition of each aircraft. By predictive maintenance, it reduces costs and improves brand image. How do they develop their product and service range and their marketing and pricing policy? To begin with, Scoot has different projects in mind when it comes to differentiating from their rivals and attracting a wider customer base. As he mentions in one interview, he is planning on doubling the company's fleet size in 5 years, what he calls aggressive expansion, which requires at least doubling the current operating crew. Moreover, he is planning on increasing the market presence of each of the small airlines which make up the SIA grouping. Also, Lee, the CEO of Scoot, has 4 propositions to engage their customers, including 1. Increasing the value, designed for all budget carriers. 2. Innovation, trying to have new products like, for instance, the Scoot in Silence cabin. 3. Choice, in terms of the growing network, which is why they want to increase their fleet size. And lastly, 4. Experience, involving both the promotion of the different in-flight experiences and also the way in which the cabin crew engages with the customer during the flight. Overall, we believe these 4 factors are essential for the growth of the business in the market and the maintenance and acquisition of customers. Lastly, in terms of the pricing strategy, Lee mentions that the prices will go depending on how the market players behave, but some ways in which airlines can reduce operating costs involve saving money through fuel hedging contracts that secure a fixed price for fuel over a certain time, and setting benchmarks and tracking expenses. To finish off, what are the choices they make? Some of the choices airlines may need to make may involve, firstly, the way in which they can drive demand, which may vary depending on the business model, their portfolio of marketing and operating alliances, the fleet or aircraft type, their pricing strategy, the scheduling, their loyalty programs, and many other factors.
Organizations and companies have faced a drastic change in their environment. Today, instead of working in protected companies in which globalization and competition is relatively low, they have to adapt to a new, highly competitive global market. One of the most important factors of every company in the competitive business world is to develop a strategy which will measure its costs and benefits accurately. Without this kind of operational systems, it is practically impossible to identify if the companies are being successful or need any kind of change in order to improve its numbers. These emerging companies have 4 key factors which will determine its success. They go beyond customer engagement, which are, the first one is value, the second one is innovation and new products, for example, areas where children are not allowed to sit, choice and experience. In order to measure its cost, the company has to be aware that there are 2 basic stages of accounting for cost. First, cost accumulation, and second, cost assignment to various cost objects. Also, inside the cost, there are 2 categories, direct cost and indirect cost. Direct costs, on one hand, are those which are directly tied to a cost object and its production. On the other hand, indirect costs are the contrary, meaning that they are not directly related or tied to a cost object. They can both be variable or fixed, but direct costs are generally variable costs. For example, a direct cost in an airline can be the fuel. The fuel is essential for an airline to operate and indeed one of the most important costs in the company. In fact, the purchase of the fuel is one of the biggest costs of the company, for not to say the biggest one. This means that it is a cost that the company will have to pay directly, and it is variable as it can fluctuate from time to time, meaning it can go up or it can go down. Another type of costs are product cost and period cost. On one hand, product costs are directly tied and form part of the stock. However, period costs are not attached to the product and are included in the inventory valuation. So today, the airline competition is very high and very aggressive,
and every airline wants to expand and increase their benefits. So for example, this company has decided to double their size of the fleet in 5 years, meaning that they will have a 15% growth in the future. And this investment on the fleet will mean that the cost will increase relatively a lot. So for example, in terms of, and the question is how to finance this growth and how to finance this cost. So in terms of people, for example, they will have to double their operating crew, the pilots, which means that the cost will increase a lot. And also competitors expand aggressively to some other routes, and maybe they want to expand to the same route. So the airline and their cost accountants will have to identify the new routes that they will be able to be profitable and not the ones that they will be possibly lose more money. Even though the future is unclear, the company relies on, for example, the alliance in order to make profits. Their main aim, as I said before, is to add more routes and destinations in the future. For example, they want to expand to Europe. They already have a flight to Athens, but they want to specifically fly to Berlin. And in order to keep track of its success, they will have to measure the cost and revenues of their new long-term operational system with the aim of expanding and making more profit. They will have to rely on survival tactics such as cutting budget and cost, and a key strategy is cost cutting. This may result difficult as their future plans are expensive and take a lot of budget from the company. As a result, the company will probably have to increase ticket prices and reduce certain level of luxury on their flights. Another tactic which can stop this from happening is to create a well-known brand which will eventually create loyal customers which will pay any price. Also, they can improve this by innovating and offering opportunities or other products which will differentiate them from other market players. So this is where the role of the cost accountant becomes essential. A cost accountant is responsible for the reduction of a company's financial expenses and therefore responsible for its revenue and profit. This means that their task is to analyze and determine the cost of the company, which will eventually provide the company with a specific budget. As a result, a cost accountant has a very important job inside the company, as it basically informs the organization of how they can improve their earnings or what are the factors that are not allowing them to keep expanding or making profits. Some examples inside these merging companies is that the accountants each month are responsible for creating journal entries which determine the money spent and the money gained. They classify all the costs and expenses accurately and determine which of them can be reduced or which of them have to increase. For example, due to the big investment in the aircraft fleet, the company in terms of people will have to increase the number of employees and pilots. This means that they will have to create a budget on how much money they can spend on the new employees. They will also have to create a budget on how much money the company will be able to spend each year in the purchase of the new aircraft, which are extremely expensive. As we have seen, the role of the cost accountant is essential in every company. Without their information, it will be impossible for a company to determine how much money they can spend and how much money they have gained, and what are the new factors that they have to reach in order to expand and grow.